Welcome back to the Warcraft news, where there's a lot of things to talk about. So, pre-patch has actually just hit release candidate status. It's actually kind of exciting. We've seen a whole wave of official update posts from Blizzard. In beta, we've seen updates to key game features, things like Delves and Mythic Plus, and to start us off, a wave of 38-slot profession bags. Yeah, basically, these will suck up a hell of a lot of reagents, and they'll also give you a bit of a buff for your professions. So I guess let's hope, between this and some things being moved to the currencies tab, that, I don't know, bag space will be slightly less. Hell. Anyway, there's a hell of a lot to get stuck into this week. If you would like to support what we do and help me develop the team, well, go to Bellular.games. Over there, the lads just dropped the latest Lore Walking podcast episode. I believe it's just shy of 2 hours in Paladins, and all in, Lore Walking is like dozens of hours of content now, so you get a hell of a lot, and of course, in joining, you help us make better content. That's what it's all about. The first news story then is Blizzard dropping previews and dates. So, pre-patch officially comes out July 23rd, and along with that reveal, there's a whole bunch of articles that are just overviewing the systemic updates, as well as Radiant Echoes, which is confirmed to release on the 30th and will be active until August 26th, which is funny enough during War within Early Access, but right before the official launch. I'll also definitely say props to the community team. They've done a really good job with these articles. They're more in-depth than we usually see. Now, one thing that caught my eye was warband conversions, and certainly reading comments, there is quite a bit of confusion out there on the feature. Basically, right, warbands are not an opt-in feature. It's basically just Blizzard's name for making everything account-wide. Essentially, it's the framework to make that make sense. The 4 favorite characters that you pin in your login screen, those are just visual. That's not your warband. Everything in your region is your warband. And basically, to make all of this account-wide stuff work, and to merge all of your progress together, Blizzard have got to crunch some data. They've actually said that this may even result in a login queue and could take 20 minutes. That's not ideal, but I mean, it's a single upfront cost, so I get it. Now, they also did sneak in a confirmation. More login screens will be collectible in the future, which I think is pretty damn brilliant. I mean, imagine these as, say, renown unlocks. And if Blizzard wanted to drum up a whole bunch of gameplay for basically no cost, going back to old reputations like Netherwing or Kalawak and doing login screen rewards for them, maybe Exalted, that would be pretty cool. They'd also make real nice ahead of the curve rewards as well. So, let's hope they're thinking about that. And with that said, let's hop into beta. First up is Delves, where Blizzard are doing some refinements. First, XP is being increased across the board for this, and they're also making them scale better with character level, and they've confirmed that they've basically got a big old dataset of per-spec performance in Delves that they want to use to further tune them. That being said, I gotta be real with you, I totally struggle seeing these really ever being fun in a healer. The next point then is Bountiful Delves, and you might ask what the hell those are. Well, the Bountiful Delve will have better loot chests at the end, both like the regular chests you can always open, but then also the ones you'll need a key for. Now, you'll see if a delve is bountiful on your map, just your world map, and doing a delve consumes the effect. Blizzard have basically said that that's a way for them to shake things up, and I think you can understand the design basically. You look at the map, there will sometimes be a Bountiful Delve. It'll make sense to do them if you're interested in that. Next then, brand tweaks. So, a few of his large abilities unlock earlier, and they've also changed up how he uses them so they're more spread out. Basically, it's so he doesn't, like, blow all of his cooldowns at once and then just, be useless for a while. And finally, a quick note in the 13th Delve. So it's basically a Mage Tower-like experience where you fight this Lieutenant of Xal'atath, who is also the guy that messes around with you in the higher tier Delves. Basically, he gives us the affixes. Anyway, the 13th Delve is available to unlock once Season 1 starts, which is 2 weeks after expansion launch on September 10th. The next thing then is weekly caches, which are actually kind of related to Delves. So, they're changing up, and when I say weekly cache, I don't mean the Great Vault, I basically mean the kind of caches of loot that you get from doing events. As an example, the soup in Dragonflight. Now, this is going to matter if you're into Delves, so let me break the whole thing down. The War Within has got 6 sources of these caches per week, right? And they're from these sources: Earthen Theater, Awakening the Machine, Spreading the Light, Ashkahet Pact Special Assignment World Quests, and then finally, the major weekly quest in Dornagal. Now, if that's all word mush to you, don't worry, like, we haven't been into the expansion yet, so it's totally okay to not know what those words mean. Basically, right, what they are 4 events, a world quest completion thing, and then a big weekly quest. Essentially the sort that you would expect. Plenty of things to do, and that's almost Blizzard's problem. It basically seems they've realized the Dragonflight approach wasn't really going to work here. As an example, in Dragonflight, they would ask you to get, say, 5 planted seeds, do a super bloom, and get 1500 rep. It was fairly prescriptive. Here, though, they want you to have a bit more freedom, so the way it works is like this. There are 2 things that we will want from these caches, right? gear, and coffer key fragments. Those fragments turn into coffer keys, and those are used to open chests, which of course are in the delves. Now, to give us some flexibility, they've designed it like this. Of the 6 caches that you can earn per week, the first 4 of them will give you key fragments, and then the first 2 will give you gear. That basically means if you just want bang for your buck, get some gear, you do 2 of them, and to completely progress with those, you do 4. To explain the philosophy, their post basically says this: if there's an activity or zone you don't enjoy, we don't want you to feel left behind for not doing it. Which is very different to how things have went down in the past with WoW. Like, this started off whenever they would see participation for like a raid, like say Naxxramas, right? And they'd be really worried that barely any people were going there. A lot of that mindset ran through to the future, is basically why Torghast had the Soul Ash and the Soul Cinders. That basically meant that you had to go there. That obviously didn't really work, so I think this is a far more healthy philosophy. And speaking of health, the next topic is healing. Healing has been troubled for a while. What's happened is Dragonflight saw healers be too strong, and that leads to incoming damage having to be really spiky, because if a healer is super strong, how do you challenge them? Well, you hit things really, really hard. And this basically focuses the gameplay a lot more on like having very, very, very quick reactions, which is not always where Blizzard want healer gameplay to be. They generally want it to be a little bit more about, well, managing health as a resource, and most traditionally, balancing that with your own mana usage. Dragonflight struggled with this, and this post basically outlines what they're trying to do to fix the problem. Number 1, health pools are increasing relative to Dragonflight. That's actually notable to me because, like, multiple times throughout Dragonflight, they scaled up the health pool, so that's kind of interesting. The second thing they're doing, though, could work a bit better. They're making percentage-based heals a bit weaker, while also increasing the power of single target and hybrid heals, and basically they've said they want to shift challenge away from overwhelming burst and over to sustained healing, which honestly is exactly what I would want. I think sustained healing that is really about mana efficiency gameplay is honestly just way more fun. It's not great when it's either react super quick to triage people alive and then in your downtime basically feel useless and like a bad DPS. I don't think that's fun. Slightly slower paced, more thoughtful management gameplay, like that's kind of just my jam. Anyway, a lot of this is very relevant to Mythic Plus, and that happens to be the next topic. After upending Mythic Plus a few weeks ago, Blizzard are now doing some refinement, and it's mostly to Xal'atath's Bargain, which is a set of 4 different affixes. The way these work is they rotate weekly, and other than Fortified and Tyrannical swapping what keystone level they activate per week, they're basically the only thing that changes from week to week, and there's only 1 active each week, so it's definitely a very, very different landscape to what we had in the past. So first off, we got a new one, and it's called Voidbound. Basically, during combat, Xal'atath summons in an emissary who buffs enemies, gradually increasing their damage, but if we defeat the emissary, we all get 20% crit for 20 seconds, which could feel pretty good. So that's the new one, but there have been some changes to the prior 2 that were put up for testing. First up, right, for Ascended, there's really good news. Instead of 20 orbs, it's now down to 10 orbs. 20 orbs was quite bad because basically your whole screen would explode, it would be full of orbs, those orbs would have little cast bars that have nameplates, and it would just be a whole bunch of clutter. So really good that they've done that. And the other one, of course, is Frenzied. Frenzied was a very simple enrage. At lower health, enemies do more damage and take more damage, which certainly has got the Pro versus Ascended of, well, not exploding your UI, but Blizzard basically thought it's a little bit boring, doesn't really have much of a theme, but also they felt that it had limited counterplay. And I suppose their reasoning is that rather than be on a timer, this was just always going to be active. Now, if it's always active, then that basically means if you've got like a really good hard stop, a stun, something like that, you'll be quite incentivized to use them in basically every single pack. And I guess it's not even an incentive, like you are basically doing risk mitigation because the mobs will hit harder, so maybe they just felt that that could have slurped up too much group utility, which is counterplay, but maybe it's just not the counterplay that they wanted. That said, don't count it out yet. Blizzard have actually not said that this is being removed, they've only said they're removing it from beta testing, so it could return in some sort of modified form. Then the final thing is they've added new abilities to Mists of Tyr na Scythe and Siege of Borealis that well, at least seem to have got some melee players worried, which I suppose is understandable. Next then, Alon. Will there be an Alon patch? That was Matt's first reaction to the latest 6-month subscription mount, and I totally see why. Take a look at this owl, it 100% looks like it's sort of from Emir Drasil, and owls are often associated with the moon, and of course Alon is also associated with the moon. Now you can take a look back at some of the 6-month sub mounts. Here's the Wave Whisker, this is from the Emerald Dream, and before that you've got the Chinese New Year mount, then before that it's the Nether Gorged Worm, which funny enough is the Dragonflight Taxi mount. Before it, there's another Chinese New Year mount, and then before that is the Sapphire Skyblazer, which does kind of look like a blue, almost Alon-like mount, but anyway, it was added in patch 9.1, and then we saw similar birds flapping about the place in Zereth Mortis. So, it's kind of a clear pattern that these mounts are very often from some upcoming content. That has got loads of people basically wondering how the hell Alon could pop up in the War Within. Well, it's actually really simple. Roots. These roots. These roots are from a world tree that Alon got ANR to plant. Amanthul was basically furious at this because, think about weeds in a pavement, right? That whole thing where life is very hard to control, so he was furious, he ripped out the tree, but he didn't notice that there was still a whole bunch of roots down there. Now, those roots are suspicious. They kind of seem like related to the Haranir, I think, or at the very least the Haranir are there, near the roots, and they're also suspiciously close to what I can only describe as a massive flesh pit. Yes, some sort of strange massive flesh pit that is underneath Azj-Kahet. So there certainly is lore grounding for there to be a patch there. Of course, it doesn't need to be a major patch, it could just be a mega dungeon or something like that. And I suppose if you were looking for a mega dungeon theme and then 2 patch themes, that actually does fit the current community speculation, and some of that speculation is pretty informed by data mining. Like, there's a few shreds that point towards goblin stuff, so maybe 11.1 going to undermine having goblins, having, I suppose, the exploitation of the world's resources, maybe that could be something. Then the whole roots, live flesh pit thing could probably be a mega dungeon. I don't really see a lot of people wanting, World of Warcraft, patch 11.2, Journey to the Flesh Pit. This doesn't really seem like a patch to me. And then, of course, there is the Koresh sort of data mining hints that we talked about recently, which, at least personally, I'm very much hoping are real. Do let me know if you've got ideas. Certainly, like, between Koresh, Flesh Pit Mega Dungeon, and Goblin stuff, that does kind of just seem like the whole expansion to me. Anyway, that is it for the Warcraft news. Quite a lot of things this week, and we very much are gearing up to, all of this stuff actually being real and live. And the good news is, to help you enjoy that, we have got a really killer video coming out, I believe, tomorrow. And if you want to get prepared for some of the pre-patch stuff, good news, I published this just yesterday. So go check that out. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you over there.